Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's finally here, my in the bag video, the long awaited in the bag. I apologize mightily for the delays. You know, being a disc reviewer and reviewing so many new discs all the time, I wanted to be able to really lock in that bag because honestly, it's like a revolving door. I mean, throw something, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I want to try to fit into my bag, and it has to kick something out. So I really wanted to make sure that I had my kind of set bag in place. Anyways, I really wanted to hone in what that bag was going to be that I'm going to be starting 2024 with, and what I'll most likely be using, maybe a couple small changes here or there, but this is primarily the bag setup. So again, thank you all for the patience. Now, if you see any of the discs that you want to try, go visit greatlakesdisc.com. They have been an amazing sponsor all through 2023. I appreciate their support, and I would also appreciate that you support them. They are a great brick and mortar disc golf shop. Just they do amazing things for the community. Go support them, and then also use that promo code LEFTY in checkout. That's going to save you 10%, and it's also going to help support me. I greatly appreciate it. And also, if you haven't already, why haven't you subscribed? If you haven't subscribed yet and you're watching this, let me know down below. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and jump on into the 2023 and beyond in the bag. To kick things off, we're going to be taking a look at the putters, starting with the putting putters. This was a long search for myself, but I have finally landed on the MVP Watt. This is basically a Goldilocks putter for me when it comes to putting. Because it has a flat flight plate, it's not too deep, but also not too shallow either. It just has that really nice, comfortable feel. Also, incredibly straight, so it doesn't matter if I'm inside the circle or outside the circle, just toss it straight and it's going to make it to the basket. And also, good enough glide to make it to where I need it to go, but not to sail over the basket. Now, the Watt isn't just used for putting, I also use it for throwing as well, and this is an incredibly straight throwing putter. It does everything I want. Throw it flat, it has a very straight flight with just a little baby hyzer. If I put it on a hyzer line, it just holds the arcing hyzer, and then when I toss it on a turnover line, it's going to hold that turnover all the way to the ground. It really is a do-everything style of putter, and even in the wind, it does straighten out, but I can still trust it as long as I keep it on a hyzer angle. Now, if I ever find myself in a really tough position and I can't get a full reach back, or I'm just restricted and can't get a full follow through or any kind of run up, I'm going to be using the glitch for the approaches and sometimes off the tee. It has amazing glide, so it doesn't take much to just kind of get it up to speed and just float its way to the basket. So if I just need something that's going to carve through the woods from like a standstill, holding an anhyzer, just throwing straight down a tunnel, or even just kind of holding a gentle hyzer line, the glitch does kind of serve the same purpose as the Watt, but just at slower speeds and not as long. For the mid-ranges, we're going to start with the most understable and work our way up, starting with the most understable, and that is the Axiom Discs Paradox. Now, for those of you who have been following my In the Bag videos for the last few years, know I've been throwing the Discraft Stratus, and the Paradox very much reminds me of the Stratus, just much better feel in the hand, not like a flat plate. It actually has a little bit of dome to it, and it just kind of molds to my hand very well. Loved it for those controlled turnover shots. Really like it for these tunnel shots where I just power down, let it hyzer flip up to flat, hold incredibly straight, and get very little, if not any fade at all. Just a great glidey mid-range that really can be used in so many different situations. It also makes a great beginner disc. Next up, we have the Pathfinder from ThoughtSpace, and if you've seen my video review of it, you know that I believe the Pathfinder is the best feeling mid-range out on the market. If I was designing a mid-range, this is how it would feel. Now for the flight, I like it for just gentle hyzers. I also like that I can throw this thing flat and really rip into it. It's going to hold really straight, but then just have that really nice predictable finish. Even if I put it on a little bit of an anhyzer, say with like a forehand, I know that just at the end of the flight, it's just going to stable out and have a nice trustworthy finish. I can work a lot of different lines with the Pathfinder. Now, if the wind is up, if I need to force something over on a flex line, or if I really need to use a mid-range for a forehand, I am going to be using the Quake from DGA. This thing is incredibly torque resistant, has great late stability, decent enough when it comes to glide, so this is something regardless, backhand or forehand, I can trust that it's never going to turn over and is
always going to hyzer out. Now, in some situations, the quake is going to be too long and too glidey. So for those cases, I am using the Innova Toro. This is a very compact style mid-range where I just feel like I get great control out of it because it's very shallow, but also very compact in size and extremely overstable, even more so than the quake. So I can really trust it on those nice shorter approach shots. Now we're going to get into the bread and butter of the bag, the most used discs besides the putting putters, and that is the fairway drivers. First, we're going to kick it off with the F9 from Prodigy. This is basically just going to be a longer Paradox. Now, like the Paradox, as I mentioned, it had that dome to it. Oh my goodness, the F9 is domed to an extreme. It looks like a UFO. It has such a unique look and feel to it, but the disc basically makes it look like I'm a right-handed thrower. If I'm throwing the F9 near full power, it doesn't matter what angle I'm tossing it on. It is always going to fly to the left for me. Great for those turnover shots. But if I do give the F9 some hyzer and throwing at about 40 or 50% power, it just makes short work of these tunnels. It flies just like the Paradox, but just a little bit further. Now, if I need a fairway driver that's going to fight a little bit, have just a little bit more torque resistance, still going to have a really nice, gentle turn to it, but still flatten itself out, and then hyzer back towards the very end, I am reaching for the Cicada. When I start on that anhyzer line, it's going to hold it almost all the way before just the very end. It's going to level itself out and try to fight back. And then if I rip into it flat, it is going to have this really nice, gentle bit of turn before then just at the very end of the flight, it'll have a nice baby hyzer. If you haven't tried the Cicada, gosh, you are so missing out. It is easily in the top 3 favorite discs that I have thrown in 2023. Now, if there is one area that the Cicada does not work for me, that is forehands, and that is why I have the F3 from Prodigy. It's still workable in the early and mid-flight, so I can still use it for backhand, like a shot like this, but it does have more noticeable overstability to it than the Cicada. So on a shot like this, I can throw it out wide and just know that it's going to fight its way back. And then when I do throw it on a hyzer line, it is just going to hold it the entire way. Unless I really rip into this flat, it doesn't get that much turn at all. And then when it comes to forehand, it holds forehand very well. It does again have that nice gentle turn to it, but then will have that nice overstable finish. A perfect combination for shot shaping in the woods. Next up, we have the Heat from Discraft, which is just an all-around great fairway driver, which gives you great control without sacrificing too much distance. If I have any kind of obstacles really in the fairway and still need to really make it down the fairway, I am going to be using the Heat because I can hit so many different lines, whether it be hyzers, tunnel shots, gentle turns, or big turnovers. It is just such a workable disc that still gives amazing distance potential. Now for the overstable fairway driver slot, we have the Mantis from Discraft. That's right, you heard me right, overstable. This is not your ordinary Mantis. This is a crystal Mantis, also dubbed the Manta Bird. This thing is incredibly board flat, perfect for forehanding shots, has such great torque resistance and great late stability. I can throw it backhand and it almost wants to instantly hyzer out. Again, those forehand shots, just great for forehand flexes or forehand hyzers. And then also it makes a perfect thumber disc as well, so great utility in the woods, definitely one of my most used fairway drivers. Last but not least, we have the big boys, the distance drivers. And starting us off, I use the PD from Discmania. This is, for my arm speed, it is just a very overstable fairway slash distance driver, kind of in that speed 10 range. This has good glide to it, but great torque resistance, so it can really hold forehand incredibly well. And then even backhand, I cannot hope to turn this thing over, so I just love throwing it flat and just watching it hyzer out. But then with its great torque resistance and that overstability, I like putting onto those forced over flex lines and just knowing that it's always going to fight its way back. Next, we have the Wave from MVP, and this is the only distance driver that you will consistently see me use on a backhand. It's in fission plastic, incredibly lightweight. I think it's a 156. This thing absolutely bombs. I can rip into this hard and flat, and it's going to hold these really nice, just gentle turns before stabling out at the very end of the flight. And when thrown on forehand, as long as I keep it on a hyzer line when I release it, it'll flip up to flat and hold straight until it starts to slow down before it gives me that nice hyzer finish, making it the perfect disc to hit those flex shots in the woods and also for max distance shots. When the wind is up a little bit too much for the lightweight wave, I am reaching for the Hades. It gives me very similar lines, just a little bit wider rim, so it will cut through the wind just a little bit better. And also, this tends to be a little bit more on the overstable side when it comes to Hades. So I just know that as long as I throw it flat and don't start it on an Anheuser line forehand, it's gonna fight out of it. And even when it comes to backhand, I do have to start it on a slight Anheuser line to get it to hold really nice, big bombing distance shots. You'll only really see me use it if there's really no obstacles in the way. Alright, so we made it to the final disc in the bag, the Trespass from Dynamic Discs, and in this Lucid Ice Orbit plastic, it is so incredibly beefy for me. If I need to throw a spike hyzer or a forced over flex line where I just know the disc is always going to go left no matter how I throw it, this is what I'm reaching for. In the wind, it doesn't matter. It flies almost exactly the same. And it doesn't even matter what Anheuser angle I put it on. Even if I throw it on an extreme Anheuser angle like this with the extra torque on forehand, it still fights out of it. This is a beefy, beefy disc that I can trust in just about any condition. So here's a recap of what I'm throwing going into the 2024 season. I think the bag, for the most part, is set. But there are a few discs I'm not 100% sold on, and I'm also looking to fill just a couple of holes that I do have in the bag, so I'm not done with you yet.
All right, everyone, I hope you all enjoyed, but before I let you go, I just want to give you a couple honorable mentions that might be squeezing their way into the bag once I test them out a little bit more early next year.